Hi there, it's Mandy with Worshipful Living, and this week, as we have been journeying with Good Morning Girls, we have been studying in the book of Leviticus, and we have read about a lot of offerings. We read on the first day about the burnt offering, and on day 2 we read about the grain offering, an offering of thanks, a voluntary offering and voluntary sacrifice. On day 3 we read about the peace offering, and on day 4 we read about the sin offering for involuntary sins that we maybe didn't know that we committed. And today we are reading about the trespass offering. And this offering was twofold. A trespass could be against God or against somebody else. And so we have kind of come through that. And what I wanted to do and wrap up with this video was to talk about the sacrifice. And really to point out 2 things. The first thing is that Leviticus is not teaching a works-based salvation. I had somebody who sent me an email this week and they said, it really feels like in this book that we're seeing works-based salvation. And that's really not what we're seeing. In every one of these sacrifices, we are seeing Jesus Christ. He was the ultimate sacrifice. He came as that lamb, that perfect sacrifice, and that is why we don't have to have sacrifices anymore. The sacrifice isn't what forgave the people of their sin. It was the faith in what God said would happen when they sacrificed that animal. And that's the same thing that is true for us today. We put our faith in the sacrifice that Jesus Christ made, and God has said that it is good. He lived a perfect life. He was that perfect sacrifice. And so now we don't have to go and make all these little sacrifices every week, every month, every day. We can just confess our sins right to God, and He forgives them right there because the sacrificial lamb has been slain. He was perfect, and it is finished. So don't think that by reading Leviticus that we are trying to proclaim a works-based salvation. That is the last thing we are doing. We are looking to Christ. The second thing that is important to know is that we are not under the law. Jesus Christ came to fulfill the law. And so because He came and He fulfilled the law, we don't have to do those things that are in the Old Testament anymore. We are under the new covenant that is in His blood and that is in His life. And so we don't have to live underneath that Old Testament law. Now, I did pull out a lot of things this week that we can use in our lives, like keeping that good fellowship with God, making sure that we keep those sin accounts short so that we have right fellowship, giving a sacrifice of thanksgiving when things are going well or even when they don't seem like they're going so great. And even today, as we talked about that trespass offering and, trying to make sure that we deal with our sin in the right attitude and the right way when we've wronged somebody else or when we've wronged God. So those things are very important, but that doesn't mean that it's works-based. It is the right thing to do. It is our reasonable service. It is part of our living sacrifice, as Romans says. Romans 12:1-2 says that we would be a living sacrifice. And sometimes doing those things that we've talked about this week are part of our living sacrifice. Now, I wanted to just share, one other thing with you, and that is that Jesus has provided everything that we need. He is our burnt offering, and we need to yield ourselves to Him. He was that burnt offering. He was the grain offering. He was the seed that was crushed, and He was put through the fire. So He was that grain offering. He is the bread of life. And what better picture of Jesus than that? And we can feed ourselves upon Him. He is the drink offering. He poured Himself out for us. And we can now pour ourselves out in service to Him. He is our fellowship offering. He makes our lives joyful, and and even in times of pain. And lately, sometimes it has felt like we have gone through some pain and we have gone through some suffering, but we have been able to rejoice because of the sacrifice of Christ. He is our sin offering. He takes care of the sin, not only that we do against God, but against others as well. And He is our guilt offering. He has borne our sins for us, and He has paid the full price So the question isn't, what do we have to do in order to earn salvation? Jesus Christ did it all, and he is in the pages of every one of those sacrifices. He is on every page in the book of Leviticus. Next week, we are going to look a little bit deeper into these sacrifices. We're going to look into the laws of how they worked. But my question to you today is, have you accepted that sacrifice? Have you placed your faith in Jesus Christ for the sacrifice that he has made for you? Because otherwise, you are just going to keep turning and turning and turning, and we don't have to go to anybody else but Christ. We don't have to go to a priest. We don't have to go to a church. We can accept Jesus Christ right where we are. He is our sacrifice. So my prayer is that as you have studied this week, that you have seen Christ for who he is, the sacrificial lamb that was not just slain, not just for the whole world, but he was slain for you, and he was slain for me, and he took our sins upon him. Just as when an offering was given, and the people placed their hand upon the animal and placed their sin upon him, Jesus took that sin, our sin, my sin, and he put it on himself. He bore the sin of the world, and he took care of it in one offering, one sacrifice, the perfect sacrifice of his blood on the cross. And because of that sacrifice, we can worship him with every act of our life. So worship him with your lives.